Welcome back to Wannabe Canon. This is my DCU Reboot. I apologize for the delay. I just really wanted to tweak and make sure I got these stories correct for you. But without further delay, this is part 5 of my reboot titled The Question, Night of the Owl. Enjoy. Alright, welcome back to my DCU Reboot for Wannabe Canon. Now we're looking at The Question. Public Enemies, Batman and Superman came out in January in the front of the year, so now we're coming through the back of the year in early November with The Question, where we have not a lot of competition right before the holidays, but it's the fall. People want a nice noir story. So we hit them with The Question, Night of the Owl. This picks up the story of Vic Sage, who is one of the most prominent CIA agents out there with one of the most intelligent brains. However, after digging a little too much and learning too much, his conspiracies get him kicked out of the agency and disgraced. So now he's kind of a crackpot and more of a joke. But he opens up his own agency and he wears a prosthetic mask that covers his face, but also allows him to shape his face into different people, which helps with his cases. So one day a stranger brings some evidence to him that leads to a very prominent murder. And he really first thinks, why is such a big murder not being reported to all the masses? But he does take the case because he understands that such a case could put his name back on the map. So after going through the clues, he gets led to Sterling City. In Sterling City, he goes a little too deep, ruffles the wrong feathers, and gets jumped by a gang. While getting jumped by the gang, he's end up being saved by the vigilante of Sterling City named Green Arrow. After Green Arrow saves him, they both talk, and Green Arrow realizes this case could be a lot bigger than anybody realizes. And as the savior, quote unquote, of Sterling City, he needs to know what's going on. So he joins the Question in his mission, and their mission leads them to the neighboring city, Gotham City. And this city is controlled by one notorious criminal that runs everything. But Green Arrow and Question eventually realize that their murder case goes a lot deeper than they ever thought it could. And this eventually leads them in the cross paths with the Owl, who is the villain that runs Gotham City. And so after going through all of the fighting and the clues, they do realize that their murder case is linked to a much bigger plot that involves the Owl. And then this essentially becomes a situation where the Owl is creating a device that allows him to access any Earth within the multiverse. And this is where the fans and the audience finds out that this movie actually takes place in a different Earth than the previous Earth that the rest of the movies do. So we can call it Earth 2 if you want. And we realize this is a different part of the multiverse. And that the case that the Owl was on was actually set up for him to discover the missing pieces for the Owl to build his actual verse jumper. And so after they figure out the plot, of course they cross paths and we have our big fight. But there's also a little hidden layer to it, as we find out that the Owl is actually working for Brainiac, and that Brainiac does know about the multiverse and has been through it. However, he's trying to find an easier way to get through the multiverse and make his way to our prime Earth, which is where Superman is. And so that is kind of the plot of the whole story. But again, it's a nice crime noir. It starts out as a murder mystery, and it leads us down a very interesting path where you got a character like the Question, who is about or as smart as Batman and Bruce Wayne as a detective. And then, of course, we got a fan favorite in Green Arrow, who is an upcoming vigilante, but very skilled and very hungry and very willing to protect his city. And so after the end credits, we do get a scene where we see that the Question is able to keep the verse jumper from the Owl, and he asks Green Arrow to go with him to this other Earth that Brainiac is on his way to attack. And Green Arrow lets him know that he has his hands full protecting his city, especially with so many other threats coming. However, they do create a device that the Question is able to communicate with him should he need him. And then the Question goes through the multiverse to our Earth Prime to warn the people that Brainiac is coming to destroy their world. So that is the story right there. Again, a nice crime noir, real murder mystery, real gritty down to the ground type superhero movie, but really fun. We got a really highly intelligent hero in the Question that is a cult favorite, but we also got a villain in the Owl who is an alternate version of Batman, but they match wits and they have to beat each other with intelligence as well as fighting capabilities and everything else. And then we do dig a little bit into the Green Arrow and his background too. So that's it. So definitely let me know what you thought. Go to the comment section. Tell me what you thought of the story. Tell me what you think of the DCU reboot. What are some of the things you would do? And then stick around for part 6, which is Justice League Omega Protocol.